Hey guys, this is Dr. Mike, and we got Dr. Carey with us.
Hello.
So today we're going to be covering duty. So in me and Dr. Carey's previous talk, we did jealousy, and so that's the polar opposite of duty. So we're going to get into it and let's talk it out. So to begin, it says when reason is given to a latent soul, the individual is endowed with the power of free choice, in order that he might learn through his experience. In the degree that we view man as a free, creative personality, duty must be interpreted in the light of its relation to the individual will and impulse. From this vital relationship, duty derives its moral quality. The duties of an individual depend upon his spiritual standing and the conditions to which he has become subjected, upon his own personal ideals and the social standards that influence his thinking and activity. Duty is largely an individual matter, for what is regarded as a moral obligation for one person may not be so regarded by another. An act becomes one's moral duty according to his standard of right and wrong and in keeping with his personal ideals. That's starting out with a bang right there. I think about I think about we're always so quick to judge somebody else and what somebody else's path might look like and say it's like, see, that's wrong or that's right. But we can see right from the jump he's saying is it's going to be different for different people.
Well, absolutely. I think just even given the reason, when we are um, born as animals evolved with reason. So just given our ability to think and be creative, each of us have a different way to interpret things. Hence why we go through the book here and we're, reading the same sentence, but we might come up with a different viewpoint of it. Is just based on our reasoning and our personal experiences, depending on what we got going on. So it's not easy to be able to, or not fair, I guess, to be judging somebody of what their right or their wrong may be based on their path of what they've been experienced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he the Dr. Fleet, he talks about mind, body, spirit. So he does see a spiritual aspect to us as well. Now, is he right or wrong? Who knows? We'll find out later, won't we?
Yeah.
But within there, he says, like, depending on, I don't know what down here and here is, but here's more animalistic nature of human. Here's more godly, if you will, or whatever you want to call that. Seems like your own personal experiences and where you are in this scale of spiritual evolution, in addition to physical evolution, will also maybe dictate, what is in our duty to address and what's not.
Absolutely. Because, you know, you see this all the time with people in general. Like if you're more evolved, say a little higher, like you said, if that's the higher plane up here and somebody's up here, you know, it's your duty to maybe help that person that's vibrating a little lower, to help them evolve and progress closer to that higher level as well.
Without violating one of the other laws called non-interference.
That's right. That's right. That's
All
right.
right, take it away for the
Good. I
next one.
like that. There is much in this misunderstanding about the topic of duty. We may do things from a misconceived sense of duty while simultaneously neglecting actual responsibilities. Individuals who always strive for perfectionisms are burdened with superficial and imaginary duties and are constantly submerged in turmoil of nervous activity. Hoping to fulfill all their obligations in the line of duty, many people also accept their conscience as a guide to conduct and are disastrously conscientious. Enslaved by a misdirect sense of duty, they become the victim of worry and remorse over unimportant issues and insignificant details. I think this was actually a good one for me because I have a tendency to uh, be very lean on the side of perfectionism. So that can be very distracting. And so even if you have a sense of duty, sometimes that might be a law of the soul and a higher law. But if you misuse it, like anything, it can actually be a detriment to you. So you definitely have to keep those things in check.
With perfectionism, I can speak from my own, personal experience, but so many people get held back. They're worried about these nitpicky things and they're looking really to do their best job. But when you start to see and you start to study these laws a little bit more, you start to see where that behavior is coming from. And that's the thing we got to be really conscious of. Is it coming from our pride and ego that it has to be perfect so we can prove somebody wrong or this and that? Because you notice a lot of people that are really, they got a lot of passion and like they're being driven by their purpose and their passion. They don't care about the tiny details so much. Like they care about their baby, the product they're creating,
Right.
but they don't get wrapped up. They say, get the product out, see what people say, tweak it, good. Now we get a better version, better version. They want to put out, they say like, done is perfect.
Right.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Although the nature of duty is decidedly individual, still each one must so live as to receive sufficient wisdom for guidance. There is, however, a general rule for all. Namely, it becomes the duty of each person to cease all mental and spiritual action that interferes with the growth of character, and as far as possible to make his physical conditions or surroundings conform to the best interests of progression. A provision must be made concerning the physical plane because many are so encumbered by conditions and relationships that it is not possible for them to free themselves immediately. Whatever one's environment, however, he should do the utmost to govern the mind and purify the soul. One who really purposes to reach the highest standard should closely analyze himself to see that he is not held in detrimental conditions through selfishness or desire. It is many times necessary to choose between two evils, and in this case, decision should be made in favor of the thing that is the less indulgent of a selfish nature, whether that nature is one's own or belongs to another. It's a pretty good rule of thumb, kind of living life. You're saying is you got to make a choice. Sometimes you got to choose the one that doesn't serve your selfish nature, which is almost sounds like not a double negative, but it's interesting to think, what would my selfish side not do? And that should kind of let us know what direction our spiritual side wants us to go.
Well, if you're experiencing selfishness, that's almost a form of separateness, and so if you're choosing to do opposite or the less of the selfish side, then you're becoming more with one or oneness, I would imagine. Where if you're more doing things out of selfishness, that's more if you're seeing me and how is it benefiting me versus me as a whole with everyone, in that oneness. Because if you're doing something for the benefit of you, you're also doing something for the benefit of the whole if you're got your highest intent there.
And I think so that's kind of a sticky point for some people, maybe for all people actually, in that, do I help myself or do I help somebody else? And I think the way that we might, at least the way I'm interpreting it, is, primarily like we need to, our like my main goal needs to be that my soul, my spiritual level is continuing to evolve and I'm becoming a better person with stronger character. And then along the way, when I can help other people, I should. But I think that's a huge difference between I'm going to serve me first,
right,
by building up my soul, my good character, my all those good qualities. That's helping me, and that puts me in a better position to help other people. That's the way I interpret that.
right. So that your intent with that is important, because if you're just self-serving, there is no intent to help others. But if you're like building, like you said, you're building your character, yes, you're putting yourself first because you're selfish in the sense that you're taking the time and the energy and the money to build that character. And then when you are a better character, then you can better serve other people as a whole, and everybody benefits.
Probably
from
have
that.
a bigger impact. Like, we don't need money to help other people, but if you have money, you can help more people in potentially more profound ways. Now, again, you don't need money to do any of that, but it's hard to argue against the fact that money sure makes certain things easier to help more. If I'm poor, I can't tithe. I can't give it to the church. I can't give it to homeless people.
Right.
We can help them.
I also think it's interesting, in the first pages here, he's talking about how it's our reason, our free choice, and our free will. It's very individualistic, but they still use the golden rule, or they still have a rule to go by, which obviously is the growth of your character. So you're still using a bigger sense of the rule that there is a duty to build your character.
I like that.
So let's see here. Where did you end off?
The last one was it is many times necessary to choose between two evils, the lesser of two evils, and in this case,
Oh,
decision.
I gotcha. Okay, so sometimes the guise of the duty holds us in bondage to others and thereby prevents our progression. Such false duties should not hold us, and sometimes we must use severe methods to free ourselves. The mere fact of relationships should not prevent us from arranging our affairs to best conform to our development. We should measure duty by something more profound than earthly ties. One person has no right to be an obstruction in another's path through the sense of ownership accompanying such relationships. Those who are trying to purge their lives of all these false and detrimental should disregard the selfish and detrimental demands made by a father, a mother, son, daughter, sister, or brother who refuse to live the true life. The people who are truly related to us are those with whom we are tied in progression. So I think that's huge. I think you had touched upon something earlier where you were saying non-interference, and I think this is a big piece of that, where, you know, somebody who may not be as evolved, or somebody who is selfish and not seeking out duty, and you're kind of holding somebody else bondage, you know, that's interfering with them. But it takes two to tango as well. So if you're the more evolved person, you got to realize that that's not, you owe it to yourself to get out of those relations. You have a duty to get out of that relations and continue to evolve. So I think that's huge. And how they say, don't tie it to the earthly ties. You know, you got to go beyond that physical plane of like, okay, the people who are really related to you are the people who are moving you in the right direction and evolving you as a character.
Sometimes family is the one that's going to hold you back the most.
Yeah.
We got to be, you got to recognize that you can always love your family, but sometimes you got to break certain unhealthy ties. And maybe by you breaking those ties, they'll be able to evolve a little bit more, and then we'll both be able to evolve. Maybe we can come back together and get back into that close, important relationship. But it seems clear to me so far in my own progression of life is even if a family, if you got to break these ties, you got to break these ties.
Absolutely.
So man's duty extends to the physical, mental, and spiritual planes. It is the duty of man to utilize his powers to best assist his fellows, to develop his own higher self, to meet the challenges of life. In short, to seek a knowledge and understanding of the laws governing his own being, mind, body, and soul, and to obey them, thus becoming an outlet or channel for divine expression. Ignorance and transgression of the laws of life bring confusion, pain, and suffering. But a knowledge of and obedience to the laws shows wisdom and results in the highest possible development attainable on this earth plane. As long as the individual lives in antagonism to the rest of the universe, his growth is checked. Harmony must be maintained among all parts of the whole, and each person must contribute his dutiful share. Within each individual is a latent capacity to know and utilize the laws of life, but this power must be consciously developed. The person with the greatest power is the one whose consciousness has become fully aware of the divine within itself, and who projects this realization into his life. To each one of us is assigned a job to be done in this world, a mission in life, a duty to be performed to the best of our ability. We may be inclined to believe that one work is more commendable than another in the eyes of the divine. But whether our work is humble or dignified, perfect or imperfect, divine or secular, depends upon the manner in which it is done. Great souls have labored at menial jobs faithfully and well, realizing that these tasks were but stepping stones, necessary experiences in their evolution. The merit or demerit, success or failure of a work is determined by the spiritual qualities accompanying it. It matters not to God or the world whether a man is a butcher or a bishop, but it matters whether he is a good butcher or a good bishop. You know, that reminds me, that makes me think about a lot of things, but that reminds me in this quote that always kind of stuck with me, saying that the value in hard work, how does it go? It's like the value of hard work isn't the work, it's just, I guess I don't remember it too well, but there was something along the line of like, the value you get from doing hard work isn't necessarily connected with the work you're doing, just the fact that you're doing good hard work and you're kind of developing maybe that inner, that soul aspect of you, that character of you.
Right. I mean, that goes back to people who, you know, you ask two different people, what do you do for work? And, somebody who's unhappy with their job or whatever, they'll just say, oh, I'm just, I'm just a bricklayer. I can't wait to get this done, and you ask another person doing the same job, what are you doing? They're, oh, I'm building this beautiful castle. And, so they approach it very differently because one person's looking at it as, they're making a contribution, they're putting something of value. And even if that's not their end destination of where they're going to be, that's building them to move forward and be something greater, or setting them up or build them to the character that they need to be in the next step of their evolution. So I think, regardless of what you're doing, you always want to find that reason or that purpose of why you show up, and you show up at 100%, do
Yeah,
your job.
it seems like whatever job in this example is simply a vehicle for, they say, like the divine to, the divine or God or Allah, whatever you want to call it, it wants to create the universe through you. And it seems like it can only do that if you're holding these more spiritual ideas. And to be, clear what some of these spiritual ideas might be is like love, duty, like we're doing right now, kindness, forgiveness, patience, sympathy, aspiration. I think it seems like people that are living these ideals, they the divine can work through these people more unencumbered, like it just more freely. That's the way I kind of think about this.
Sure, and that goes back to the previous paragraph where it basically was saying, to the point of, it's a latent capacity already in you, but you have to awaken yourself up to it. And if you're experiencing those frequencies or those emotions of love and duty and service, that makes you vibrate at a certain vibration that allows you to bring more of that into you, or attracts more of that into you, or into your vision, or your awareness, I guess, would be one. And then just having more people like that be in your realm as well. So I think
Mhm.
that also stimulates bringing that latent power to the surface.
So I got a question for you, and obviously there's no right answer. Nobody really knows. We think we got some good ideas, but we got people on both sides of the fence. Because when I'm reading through here, it talks about, our spiritual evolution, which kind of has the assumption that there's kind of a reincarnation type of thing. You learn a little bit, you come back, you learn a little bit more, you come back, learn a little bit more, come back, learn a little bit more as we work harder and harder. So I don't know if that's true or not. That is currently the way I feel about it. Maybe my opinion will completely change in a little bit. But when he's also talking about, like, there are no good or bad job, whether you're a bishop or a butcher, there's some quality in that job that you're supposed to learn. And then this one to learn. And then you just need to get like different perspectives and learn a different quality each time. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think I'm right in that? A little bit right, a little bit wrong, totally wrong or right? What do you think about that?
Well, as far as the quality of the job, of whether it's good or bad, I think that's more relative. Just because, you know, at that moment, it may be good, like you said, because it's growing you to evolve into another step, or having the divine come through you or express through you. If you are not there, you may see that as a as a miserable thing, where if you are looking at, oh, I'm laying bricks, but I want to be doing XYZ, and you can't get out of that just seeing, hey, all I'm doing here is laying bricks and I want to be over there. You can't appreciate where you are at that moment. I think from that standpoint, you're probably seeing it as a bad thing. You're probably very frustrated and you're seeing a lot of resistance. Um, as as far as the reincarnating and evolving, um, I think one of the advanced calls was talking about this, about Gurdjieff, I think, says, you have to create your soul, and not all of us have the potential to become that. Um, and he used the acorn analogy. For me, I think I could understand how you could say that, but I'm hoping more on the reincarnating and and evolving. So
Yeah.
that's a little less depressing for me. So I think I want to be more on the yeah, I'm learning, and if I didn't get it right, I'll keep coming back and progressing.
Yeah. Hey, nobody knows. We'll find out.
Or my duty is to be somebody's fertilizer, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, serving your purpose, I suppose.
That's it. Exactly.
All right. You know where we left off?
I think I got to flip my page here. So, a power higher than we are plans. A power higher than we are plans our duties and destinies. Each person has a calling, a talent, a mission designed to assist that individual in his or her progression. These may not be of our own choice, nor according to our likes or dislikes, but tasks may be merely a preparation for greater work. Therefore, we must not object when we are assigned a job that is difficult, unpleasant, or contrary to our wishes. When we are ready for a better type of work, it will be placed before us. The honest and faithful performance of duty is rewarded by the knowledge of a job well done. Resentment often tempts us in the throes of suffering or punishment, but out of our misery some good may come. Severe punishment often awakens those who refuse to see the light. We are just souls animating these bodies, instruments of the divine. We fail to perform our duties when we become impatient, negligent, and fault finding. Then we are straying from the path that leads to a higher life.
Oof,
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
good one. This paragraph has a lot to unravel, and a lot of this could become like amazing life advice that I've seen for myself. Like even just the idea of, it talks about some of the hard jobs you're doing now might be preparation for greater works later, and those greater works will only become available to you once you've done the previous work, because that's laying the groundwork. And there's one of the things I remember specifically, I remember this even before I was getting into all this work, was I remember when I was in chiropractic school, I was dating this great girl. And I actually I was even aware that I had to go through because every girlfriend, I learned something about myself, about them, about, just interacting with life, all the above. And I remember when I was dating this person, I noticed it took me the qualities I took from that first relationship and the thing I learned from the second and third and fourth, and however, right? It took all of those to be able to reach her, to get her attention, to, etc. And, that was a big thing. So I wish I would have learned that earlier in life too, because I would have been able to progress faster. Because I think when we don't learn, we have to go back and relearn that lesson again. And that's painful.
Absolutely. And patience. I think patience is a huge piece of that, because when you're going through something that's challenging or difficult or not where you want to see, or where you see yourself, it's very hard sometimes to be patient enough to realize, okay, do what I need to do here, get it done, so that as I move forward, I can get where I want to go. I think patience is a huge piece in that.
100%. And the other thing that caught my attention was that severe punishment often awakens those who refuse to see the light. I think we know that as called hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
Sometimes the worst thing in the world you can do is to help somebody avoid hitting rock bottom, which nobody wants to hit rock bottom. I don't want to hit rock bottom. I know you don't want to hit it. I don't want to see you hit it. But sometimes, like, if this is the top of the screen, here's the bottom. If this is rock bottom and you save somebody, they might be saved, which really means they're just stuck here for longer. If they would have hit this, they could have bounced way back up, because they would have, saw the light. They would have been inspired to be like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not drinking, I'm not smoking, I'm not gambling, I'm not, whatever the things are. That might shock them and get them back on their path.
Sure. I think we even see it a little bit in a lesser degree of when you think about parents. They want nothing but the best for their children. They want them to have a better life than they did. So they'll do anything to give them that. And also, they don't want to ever see them suffer. So they'll try and do anything to help them avoid pain and suffering. And yet, in order for you to evolve as a child going into adult and mature and kind of even from a spiritual level, but just maturing as a child, they have to go through some experiences and some stressors and some pains and things. And I think in our culture today, especially, you start looking at some of the how we protect a lot of our children in many ways.
Or
It's interesting.
shelter, I think we say that.
Yes, exactly. I don't know that that necessarily fully serves them. I mean, obviously, we don't want to see people suffer or what have you, but like you said, there's a certain level of stress and resistance and that you go through to grow. And like you said, if somebody needs to hit their rock bottom because they can't see that little gentle reminder that gets bigger and bigger until you do hit that rock bottom. So I
Yeah,
just
that was
think
a
it's a
good
little.
example with the parents and the kid. Really great
Yeah.
example. Like,
Yeah.
that's I heard, I don't have any kids, so I can't really speak on this, but they're mentioning how a lot of the teenagers that really rebel, it's because now they're getting to that point in their own physical development and emotional development where they want to start experiencing life. And when they feel that kind of that sheltered kind of looming parent over their shoulder, that makes them kind of want to shake that off, and they trying to go live their life. And but the mom's trying to keep them safe, but that could hold them back. It seems like.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I obviously I can't speak of that either as I don't have children, but just observing some of the parents and the children that come in the office or just around in family or what have you. But it definitely, when the bird's ready to fly, let them fly, I guess is the.
Let them fly, let them fall.
That's
All right. Not only is the individual obligated to pursue that course of action that is in harmony with the right reason, but he must also exercise caution not to overdo duty. Under existing circumstances of life, the latter is perhaps the most difficult phase of the law of duty to thoroughly understand and properly apply. So unconscious has humanity become of the source of its helpfulness, and so closed are the avenues through which such aid may come, that many people are almost defeated by their environment, the pressure being so great that enforced duty carries them far beyond their natural limit. One should never be called upon to sacrifice physical, mental, or spiritual welfare through the performance of duties. The fact that this is necessary is only the web in which the human race has entangled itself. Here, as always, one must face the condition as it is, and to the best of his ability to observe the laws which make for freedom. I think we call those people martyrs, in the people that they overstep, or there's giving and then there's healthy giving. And sometimes people give their last dollar to the point that they become a burden on society or other people, and whether physically or emotionally.
Sure. And then just not even just being a martyr, but there is people that will do that out of thinking that it is their duty, in the name of God. So they or the divine or what have you, they feel like they have to do it, that they can't do anything, um, that they're almost guilty if they feel guilty if they don't do duty, they somehow feel like they're not serving in the right way. So yeah, I definitely think there's knowing that fine line of being able to serve and have a certain duty to do that, but also not to overdo it as well, like you said, for sure.
All right. In regards to helping others, one must learn to estimate accurately modifying circumstances in order to be able to determine whether duty calls and how far it extends. There is always a price to pay for everything we do in this world, for the law of compensation forever operates. Every act of life costs life forces, and one's capacity to receive is necessarily limited. Regardless of one's ability to receive regardless of the abundance of nature's supply, expenditure must never exceed accumulation. If at any time a person uses or scatters his life forces more rapidly than he gathers or appropriates them, he becomes impoverished. One must consider what he can afford. It is a well-known fact that cost is always estimated in terms of material wealth to be expended, but it is necessary to make much closer divisions when soul or life elements are in question.
Well, yeah. So, like anything, I mean, you can certainly know that there's a monetary. We think of it as monetary. That's just an exchange of value, but certainly there's a certain level of energy cost to that person, to doing that. And if you don't replenish yourself and you don't allow yourself to um, kind of absorb some of that energy back, you will become depleted, whether you get sick because you're overdoing it, or you are not incongruent with other people, so your relationships disintegrate. So it might be a physical thing that's actually manifesting in you, but it also may be more of like relationships breaking down and things because you don't have the energy or the extent that you're overextending, so you can't really help others as well. So I
Yeah,
think that's huge.
I see that, like, people that are just giving, 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 and all of a sudden now they're too poor to help themselves or other people, or they're too sick, and that puts them out for a whole week. And even on the way down, they're giving their life force and whatever we're talking about here. Now they probably can give less efficiently. They're probably not as good of a mood. They're probably putting bad vibes onto the people as they're depleting their own thing. So I really see a lot of that value, and we need to become aware is as we're giving and serving and doing all these good things for the world, is where is our own personal battery supply, if you will, being mindful of that. Don't burn the candle at both ends.
Right. You only have a certain amount of energy per day, but also per life. So, and the faster you burn that out, the the quicker you the quicker you leave this physical world. So and not only the faster you leave the physical world, but the less quality of life you have while you're in the physical world, because you are sick, or you do you can't, like you said, you affect your mood and your relations and things like that, for sure.
100%. All right, Dr. Carey, close us out.
All right. Um, it is humanity's duty to develop its own potentialities, physical, mental, and spiritual. As we become aware of the oneness of all life, we recognize our duty to all God's creation. We then begin to control and eliminate the negative forces that bring discord, suffering, and unhappiness into our own life and the lives of others. The spark of the divine love begins to flame forth in our soul, growing in its intensity and magnitude until it embraces all life. It is our duty to be happy and to provide an atmosphere of peace, joy, and devotion towards other. When love, unselfishness, and all the other attributes of the soul permeate the atmosphere in which we must work, then the crudest and humblest tasks become exalted. In performing our duties, we experience an extreme satisfaction knowing that we are promoting not only our own advancement, but that of others in accordance with the divine plan. I think for me, one of the biggest things that stands out for that is it is our divine right to be happy. I think
That's what caught me, to put
yeah,
that atmosphere of peace, love, joy, devotion. So that's kind of what we're talking about. It's like if we're kind of depleting ourselves, our vibe is getting smaller and worse. We're impacting other people. So it's our duty to be happy. It's our duty to be joyful and filled with passion. So I'm right there with you. That really stuck out to me.
right.
All right. Any closing thoughts, Dr. Carey?
Oh, I think that was good. I think just to know that our biggest duty is to make sure we're constantly evolving and wakening up, like they said, that latent power of just that divine in us, so that we can serve not only ourselves but just as a whole, the others that are in with us in the physical world, but as we evolve, get closer to the oneness there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that one of my takeaways was simply that in the duty chapter, I learned that it's not my duty to handle this and this and like the duty is, I learned that there's less duty, but it's more laser focused with me and my own physical, mental, and spiritual growth.
Absolutely.
That
Don't get caught up in the
was a chapter.
details.
All right. I appreciate your time. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you for the next chapter.